The people stood trembling, their eyes fixed on Moses. Then, as the sun began to set, the pillar of cloud that had led the Israelites shifted, moving behind them, standing between them and the Egyptian army. It cast a deep darkness over the Egyptians, but on the side of the Israelites, the night was filled with light from the pillar of fire. The Egyptians could not advance. But still, there was the sea. Moses, listening to the voice of God, raised his staff high over the waters. The wind began to blow, a strong east wind, like none the people had ever felt. It swept across the waters, driving them back, and before their astonished eyes, the sea began to part. The waters divided, forming towering walls on both sides, and in the middle, a path of dry ground stretched across the seabed. With hearts pounding and breath held in disbelief, the Israelites began their journey across the sea. Families, children, and elders walked on dry ground, passing between the walls of water that loomed on either side. The wind howled, and yet they were unharmed, untouched by the waters. They walked in faith, knowing that the God who had brought them out of Egypt was now making the impossible possible. But behind them, Pharaoh's army did not hesitate. When the pillar of cloud lifted and the darkness faded, Pharaoh, filled with wrath and pride, commanded his chariots to charge after the Israelites, straight into the path God had opened in the sea. The Egyptians pursued them, their chariots rumbling across the dry ground of the seabed, their horses galloping, spears raised high. They were confident, certain that they would capture the fleeing Israelites. As the last of the Israelites reached the other side, Moses, standing at the water's edge, looked back. The entire Egyptian army was now in the middle of the sea, chasing after his people. The Lord spoke once more, and Moses stretched out his hand over the waters. Suddenly, the wind that had held back the sea began to shift, and the walls of water trembled. The dry path, once so firm beneath the feet of the Israelites, began to soften, and the chariot wheels of the Egyptians sank into the mud. The Egyptian soldiers tried to turn back, but it was too late. As the last of the Israelites stepped onto dry land, the waters began to rush back. The walls of the sea collapsed with a mighty roar, and the waves crashed down upon Pharaoh's army. Chariots, horses, and soldiers were swept away, swallowed by the sea. Not a single Egyptian survived.